Hello everybody, happy Sunday. So it's 12:40 in the afternoon. My name is Maria. Welcome to my channel. I wanted to invite all new subscribers here. My channel is going to be hopefully monetizing as I get more subscribers. I really want to monetize you guys. And at one time I had 1,000 subscribers and I have like 469. And I want you back. I want my 500 people back really much. So many of you know me from the Mom series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity, Awesome Astrid Mosaics, Sensory Overload, where I took a deep look for 13 years into all of the media depictions that are wrong, that add to stigma and fear and legend and folklore and craziness and criminalization and demonizing mental health issues. I looked specifically at the mental health issue, what used to be called multiple personality disorder and is now called dissociative identity disorder. But I looked at every disorder. I looked at post-traumatic stress, complex post-traumatic stress, bipolar 1, 2, mixed variety, schizoaffective disorder, OCD, ADD, other specified dissociative disorders, or DDNOS at the time, dissociative disorders not otherwise specified. I looked at autism, I looked at being on the spectrum, I looked at every single thing that people think is one way, including opiate addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, prostitution, all the lifestyles and things that we see in the media that are sadly at times misportrayed and lend themselves to a lot more pathology than there needs to be, including medical diagnoses and the over-medicalizing of the human condition and pathologizing of it. So, looked at all of that. Then I took a deep look at Hollywood and how Hollywood got together with psychiatry years ago in the 1940s. And actors were taught to use the, usually the mesmer method acting or method acting. Method acting is where you go deep back into a trauma or a wound and you relive it and you stay in that in order to get the emotion you need for that character. And I really started to look at how some actors cannot come out of character after they play a character in a movie. They cannot lose that character. Or some actors and actresses or theater will draw from some really cool attributes they found and things they liked about a character that was not part of their character, but they kept. Now, Sally Field does a beautiful job of explaining this in her book, In Pieces. And that's a book I really tell everyone to get. That, and also Asti Oostefed's Medical Muses, looking at the hysterics in the late 19th century in Paris, where it looks at Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot and the Salpêtrière Hospital and how he had these celebrity psychiatric patients who were acting like different personas. And depending on who came to study them, the great writers of the century, psychiatrists, popes, archbishops, big, poet laureates, all of these people who came to study them. They were muses, painters, artists, writers, came to take a look and say, what's up with these ladies? Whole unit of ladies they called hysterics, which were later deemed multiple personality. So the name changes depending on culture. It can be called being possessed, spiritual, could be hysteric, or it could be called multiple personality. It just changes over the years, and now dissociative identity disorder. Now we're seeing it change again, where people are starting to call it gender seeking, identity and gender seeking disorder, where people that do not feel comfortable with their gender or their identity as male or female don't want to pick one or the other, so they're non-binary or they're fluid or whatever. And MPDDID is now evolving into that said thing. Like maybe you're uncomfortable with your gender. Maybe you want to be female one day, you want to be male the next. This is all very interesting because in the multiple community, through the internet, what I've found since the mid-2000s is that a lot of people are trying on multiple personality and dissociative identity disorder and alter egos and aspects in order to, yes, as a defense mechanism. Performers use it as part of their work and even their stage presence. But when it's dissociative, true dissociative, people don't know they're actually doing it until they start to recognize what they feel like when they're disassociating. Then they can kind of almost snap themselves out of it, sort of like an aura for a migraine or a seizure. You can interrupt it if you know what's really happening. So I've been talking for years about it. I've looked at books, TV shows, every kind of everything. United States of Terror for 3 years. I looked at every depiction on every episode and reviewed it. Frankie and Alice, Three Faces of Eve, A Mind of Their Own, Trudy Chase and the Troops, Creature of Habit, A Journey, which was a book that the Troops wrote for Trudy Chase directly after Rabbit Howls, and it never got published until after Trudy passed away in the Troops, and their daughter, Kari, published it. So you had Rabbit House, which was on the New York Times bestseller list forever, but Trudy couldn't get her Healed book. How should I say this? You know, you could get a lot of sensationalized books published, but if you were actually talking about being on the other side of it and healed, unless you went into a spiritual route like Christian publishing, like God healed me and nothing else, or God used therapy but it was a miracle or something, then you might be able to get it published. But for a long time, if you didn't have enough drama llama going on with your label, and it was multiple personality back in the 80s, early 90s, and then, or DID, dissociative identity disorder, there was nothing to see because it's more ordinary than not. Well, what I look at is how we adjust our behavior to fit every situation. And then I look at all the treatment models, family systems approach, mode therapy, behavioral therapy, ditactyl therapy, EMDR, tapping, somatic experience, body. I look at all of it. And talk therapy, traditional, Freudian, and then let's get to the root of it, right? And all the somatoform things that happen. I look at all of it. And I've been out here for 13 years. But my story is, I was diagnosed in 1986 when I was 26 years old. 1986. And I was really diagnosed by good people. I was on a floor, I was evaluated. Like, I mean, these weren't people that just said, oh, by the way, I think you have multiple personality. No, I did. I had that disorder. And my children actually went to live with my cousins while I went into deep, deep therapy. And my children were 10 and 8 years old. So who I count the secondary survivors of the trauma I went through when I was younger and how I developed other aspects of myself, I consider the secondary survivors my grown children and my cousins and their family, who then had to take on taking care of my children, but also feeling like they were walking on eggshells around me. to not have me switch or split or another persona come out or have me get too stressed out or whatever, and really just take over the parenting of my kids. Now, I had a lot of physical illnesses going on at the time too, so it wasn't all, it wasn't like I was a mental wreck or anything. I had physical disabilities that at some point it just made more sense for my children to stay with my cousins, where they could experience having other cousins and aunts and uncles through my cousins and more family, because at that time my parents had moved to another town. My brother and his wife were just starting to have children, and they were looking into moving. Two of the primary grandparents passed away, all in like 1 year. So my kids went through a lot of changes. They lost their dad's mom. They lost their Nana and Papa. They lost their, my mother was never able to parent them at all or to grandparent them. So it made sense that they had people in their life that were there. And I thank God for that. But when I look back at the last 30 years, and it has been 30 years, from 1992, it's been 30 years since my kids went there. I was diagnosed in 1986. Meanwhile, I became a social worker. I worked many different jobs, and it didn't get in the way until it did. So what I look at is how it got amplified. And I have been writing a book for a long time called Talking Houses. All of my poetry friends out there know Flex Writers, Poetry, Creative Network, Poetry, Peace Poets, 1000 Poets, Author's Den, NaNoWriMo people, Purple Prince Family people, NPG 123, Family, Revolution, Third Eye Girl, y'all know. And all my cooking foodies and knitting and crochet people that I've been doing videos all these years, and the DID MPD community. I would be so appreciative if everyone on my Facebook would press subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can get all my videos. And I am going to start releasing some of my videos that I privatized, and then I'm going to start reading my book, Talking Houses, which talks about the integration process and how I went from many aspects and personas to just me. And just me is enough. I'm more than enough. In fact, I'm very much more than enough. And comfortable with my emotions. And healthy. And integrated and whole. And although when this happens, when some people, and integration is different for everybody, but I talk about that in the book, it can be almost like you're a whole new person, because now you're accepting the responsibility for all your pain, shame, blame, anger, rage, bitterness, resentfulness, unforgiveness. You're owning it all, and you're living with it. And it's okay. So I want to share my experience. I don't want to go into a public format with the book yet. I've done it in poetry and vignettes and all different formats. And I really think the best format is going to be to read it online and then talk about it. And then the only way I can monetize is if I have 1,000 subscribers. 1,000. I need 1,000 of you. Please. I not only talk about mental health, I talk about pop culture, everything that's in the news, cases that are out there. Oh yeah, talked about Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, Billy McGillen, crime stories, people that tried to claim insanity that weren't. I talk about everything that's in the news, pretty much. I do talk about some political stuff, not too much, but a little bit. Not too much. I used to, more, but not so much now. And spiritual stuff. My beliefs, I want to talk about the cult personality and every religious faith out there that I have learned from. So I studied with Mormons and I became a Mormon. I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. My father and my stepmother were Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like 2 seconds away from getting dunked, Jehovah's Witness. There was nothing more to really do. I went to Kingdom Hall all the time. I belonged to Way Ministry for years. Dr. Victor Paul Werewell. I sold The Power for Abundant Living for $100. That's right. I sure did. I was a WOW ambassador, word over world. Then I ended up at Calvary Chapel Church, Maranatha, Rochester, Costa Mesa, Chuck Smith, and that became kind of cultish. Kind of. And then my whole life changed and I ended up in a Pentecostal world where again I saw there's like this little inner government going on in every church, and this dogma and this inner circle and these Christianeses and things we just believe and do and then blame it on God. Or say, well, you can't unless you can't be a member if you don't do this or that, right? So let me explain a couple things real quick. If anybody is asking you, if you're on welfare, if you have had to go on government help, food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, disability, and you're getting a Social Security check, and people are telling you your healing is going to come when you tithe to them 10%, and then you give that above offering seed of 15%, and then you give over and above till it hurts, and now you're giving all your money to the church. First of all, you don't have to pay God for a healing. Second of all, we're not even going to get into tithing right now, but we are going to talk about it. Third, we were all born with the ability to listen to the Holy Spirit in us. Once we receive the Holy Spirit, and everybody has a different name for the energy of God. It's the energy of God. It is your soul essence, what some people call the seed of your soul, your essence, core of your soul. So I've been in many religious circles, including I studied the Quran. I studied Islam. All have a cult. And I was born Catholic and brought up, and that's a whole other story. Some of it I can't talk about because I'm actually in a case that's in court right now. So I have to wait. I've made my claim. It's been years. And, the Catholic Church claimed bankruptcy in New York. So I can't talk about my case. But it is at the soul of why I became probably so confused in my personality. And I have a beautiful law team that has explained to me that my children, my family, myself, we all went through so much that was never necessary to go through, and that these people should be held accountable, and they will be. And it might just be a formal apology. It might just be putting them on a directory where they cannot continue to be in schools or churches or whatever. So that's part of my story. I will be talking about domestic violence. I will be talking about sexual abuse. I will be talking about trauma bonding. I will be talking about narcissism. I will be talking about having a parent that has Munchausen's by proxy. I will be talking about alcoholism and opiate and benzo addiction. I'll be talking all about those things, and I'd like you to join me with hope that you can get past it. You can get past it. It's not a dream. You can get to the other side. I'm 63 years old. And in the last 5 to 7 years, I've totally integrated. And I always thought integration was going to be some horrible thing. But actually, it's a beautiful thing. So I don't want people to fear that. And everybody has a different experience of it. So please subscribe, resubscribe to my channel. I know I kind of took a break from everyone. I was like, I think I'm just going to walk away because there were a lot of people that were role-playing DID suddenly. There were a lot of young kids self-diagnosing, self-subscribing to a lifestyle of having a system, a group, and all this stuff. And I just couldn't listen to it anymore. There were 3 people out here on YouTube talking about multiple personality back in the 2007, 8, and 9. And nobody was talking about it. But myself, Sidians 3, Tommy Jamison, and one gal that has passed away now, and one gal that was in the UK with her husband, and both her husband and her have passed away. I'd like to continue the legacy. There's great people out there talking about it now, but there's a lot of buffoonery and shenanigans going on too. I'm not comfortable with the Patreon page yet. I don't know how to run it or anything like that, so I'm just going to go with trying to get my subscriptions up and then put a little thank you thing there. That's it. And that will really help me get the equipment I need to do knitting and crochet from home and tutorials and tatting and cooking and baking. Right now I'm using a phone. Doesn't really work too well for knitting tutorials. So I want to get back. My life was taken away from me, and I feel like my children's and even my cousins who, although they were blessed by having my children in their home, it was turmoil. It was turmoil by my condition. So I would like to go back into social work. My doctor has said I can. Although we're in a part of pandemic where, because I have a compromised immune system, we're just not sure if I should go into a full-time kind of office setting or a hybrid remote setting or what, but I have a lot to offer, and I'm looking into peer support in mental health services now. It's been a long time since I've worked in the social work field, but I have a lot of experience. I worked as an emergency service provider for Catholic Family Center, which entailed doing just about everything for Monroe County that nobody else could do in an emergency all day. I worked with pregnant teenagers at both Planned Parenthood and Teen Family Team and RAMP at Rochester, University of Rochester. I also founded a sudden infant death syndrome hotline in Western New York and received a salute to excellence from MCC and Mayor Tom Ryan. I also received a PACE award for that. I also got my LPN from BOCES in Fairport when I graduated from high school. So I have a lot of different things I've done, plus restaurant work, and I'd like to get back into some form of administrative social work where I can work with people once in a while, but I just don't know yet with the pandemic what's what. So I'm going to start here at home, telling my story on my channel, hopefully with your help. You won't have to pay money to hear or watch videos. All videos will be open to you. I will just be putting a little thank you, a super thank you option there, so that if anybody wants to donate, they can end up buying me a cup of coffee. And that's it. But I need 1,000 people. So please, if everyone on my Facebook would hit my subscribe button, that would help me a lot, and I would forever be grateful to you. Have a nice day. Today I'm making pasta primavera. This is just a recipe I found online. Only I'm using bucatini, yellow and green zucchini, Roma tomato and some cherry tomatoes, a little bit of onion, bella mushrooms, some asparagus, some of those thin asparagus in the bag. They fell, and a yellow and red pepper. That's it. And a little garlic, a little onion, a little basil, and parsley is in there. I'm using a little bit of the starchy water, and what I made in that jar was, in this jar I put a no sodium Herbox chicken envelope with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and 1.5 cups of water, and that will thicken that up. And then on top of that is going to go a little Parmesan cheese, Pecorino Romano. So that's my meal for the day. That's my meal share. Thank you for dropping in. Happy Sunday. Subscribe, 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 please, and thank you. Bye.